Bringing your favorite fruit to the table, Nature Ripe is farmer-owned and committed to growing berries that are bursting with flavor. Continuing a 100-year tradition of family farming, Nature Ripe is making innovative strides in sustainability through their Cultivate with Care program. To learn more about Nature Ripe and why we have chosen this distinguished brand as one of our partners, please visit natureripefarms.com. When you see the Nature Ripe label on your fresh produce, you know it is more than a trademark. It is a trust mark. Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Produce Moms Podcast. I'll tell you what, we are just bringing you guys so many amazing stories of different organizations, different individuals, and movements that are helping to change the way America eats, and they are in line with our mission here at the Produce Moms of making you all get really excited and want to eat more fresh produce. So today's guest is Stacy Carroll of Hungry Harvest. Hungry Harvest is an organization that they not only bring us more fruits and vegetables, but they also have a really cool platform about eliminating food waste. So I'm so excited to dive into that with Stacy. A little background on Stacy. Her role at Hungry Harvest, she is the Director of Partnerships. And she's been with the company for about a year. But you know what? She's employee number 13, I've learned. The Hungry Harvest, you guys, it's a startup. It's so exciting. You know I love startups. So about 2 years they've been in existence, and they were around prior to that as part of a university project. So this is going to be great. Without further ado, welcome, Stacy, to the Produce Moms Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me, Lori.
Thank you. So I guess we should just start at the beginning.
Great.
What is Hungry Harvest?
Sure. So Hungry Harvest is a to-your-door produce delivery company on a mission to end food waste and hunger. We truly believe that every fruit and vegetable deserves to be eaten, and that food is a right, not a privilege.
I love that. So a food delivery, is this like so this, I know the answer to this, but is it a meal kit? Is it like a produce with a harvest box? How would you best describe it?
Yep. So I think the best way to describe it is to sort of start at the beginning of how we get our food and why we're doing what we're doing.
Okay.
So we work with a collection of farmers, both national and international, at this stage in our growth. And we are purchasing food from them that they could not otherwise sell to retail for its size, shape, or cosmetic imperfection. Most of this food is surplus in the market that is somehow, because of the sort of broken food system that we exist in currently, won't make its way to a customer, even though it's fresh, nutritious, and beautiful product. So we purchase that from them, making sure that farmers get a more fair return on their total harvest yield. We bring it into our warehouses and create a mixed box of produce. Typically includes 1 leafy green, 4 to 5 types of vegetables, 2 to 3 types of fruit. Starts at just $15, so about a 30% discount over retail, and that's delivered. And we allow you to customize that, the whole purpose of which was to create a new market for these fruits and vegetables that wouldn't make it into your traditional grocery store simply because their size, shape, or surplus.
Yeah, and I can certainly relate to that. Prior to being fully focused on what I do today as the founder of the Produce Moms, I worked for 10 years in the supply chain at the wholesale distribution stage of the supply chain. So let's talk a little bit more about why produce is off-spec. I have a really keen awareness and understanding of this because of my history within the produce industry, you guys. So for years, I worked at that wholesale distribution stage of the supply chain. When you're at that stage of the supply chain, essentially you're the middleman. So you're buying it from the farmers or the grower shippers, and then you are distributing it to retailers. So obviously, USDA inspections occurred every single day at my former employer, Indianapolis Fruit Company. And then we also had specs. Each retail customer that we had specs on the produce that oftentimes was actually more strict than what our USDA produce specs are. So this when Stacy's referring to like off-spec or misshapen, what that means is like a carrot is a really good example. You can get these carrots, and obviously if you go to the grocery store, the carrots you can stack them in a perfect line. They're all very they're all very straight. And these are not manufactured goods, you guys. There's no mold for your carrots. They are naturally grown in the earth. And so sometimes you'll get carrots that have weird bins in them and, stuff like that. And, or if, berries is another one there. If a strawberry, when it's in the bloom stage, if a petal from the bloom comes off, like whether it's through wind or another, natural element, then the strawberry will be a little misshapen. And it's still absolutely fine. So those are the kind of products that we were at the wholesale distribution stage of the supply chain. We would have oftentimes the products that we brought in that didn't meet spec, we would have to either reduce for a quick sale, or we would donate it to a food bank. And unfortunately, too often, product gets dumped.
Right.
And so let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, so you guys, you work mostly with the growers and producers, is that correct? Do you work with other folks within the supply chain to?
Yep.
You do? Okay.
Yep. So we're working with growers mostly. Second to that, we do work with an awful lot of wholesalers. We have our own warehouse in the produce market and terminal, which there's one in every major city. It's where all the food comes to be aggregated and separated and sent out to the individual grocery stores. So being right there at that point is a great place to intercept these goods that for exactly that reason. And when you think about grocery spec and the idea is, okay, well, if the grocery stores would just, relax their spec, then all this food wouldn't go to waste. And that's true and false, right? So
you're absolutely right. That's true and false.
So we all went through the process of going grocery shopping with our moms or dads when we were kids, right? And I remember specifically watching my mom meticulously pick through bananas or melons, or she had some special way to listen to them or smell them and know it was the best possible thing. And we want to give the best possible food to our families. So that mentality is a good mentality to have. But where it got exploited is in the marketing of food. So with color television, with magazines, with Food Network, with all of those kind of things, they took seeking out fresh and changed it a little bit to seeking out perfect. So we're seeing food that's been either waxed or dyed or is sorted out because it doesn't stack in those beautiful pyramids that you see at many grocery retailers, or it's a little bit too long to go through the plastic packing that you see on some cucumbers, oddly sometimes. Or doesn't fit in the bag properly, that the poundage will be off, and each bag of sweet potatoes won't have exactly 5 to make up the 3 pounds. So all of those sort of marketing problems are where a lot of this waste has happened. So what we're aiming to do is get the food that was either previously rejected from retailers and get it back on the table and say, hey, we know, that you're looking for fresh, you're looking for the best possible quality. Maybe let's check out something a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, or something that's simply surplus. And that's what we're aiming to do, create new customers who maybe wouldn't be able to afford it or want to buy more than they can at a retailer, or simply need the convenience of having it delivered.
Right. Yeah, no, that convenience of delivery is certainly, that's certainly a big one too.
Yeah. And going back to your first question, we also try to live very zero waste in as many pieces as we can. So we're sending whole product. We're not pre-chopping it, pre-measuring it. So it's not a meal kit. It'd be more akin to a CSA box you would pick up from the farmer.
Yeah, no, I love that. I do worry about the carbon footprint
of all the meal kits. I certainly love that what they're doing for, reigniting the cook at home culture. But I do worry that, in 5 to 10 years, we're going to look around. It's going to kind of be that same like K-cup effect. We're going to be like, oh my gosh, look at what, these meal kits have done to our wastelands and the environment. And I know most of them try to use, responsible packaging, but at the end of the day, it's, I've participated in a lot of them, and I've canceled my participation in a lot of them for that reason, the packaging.
Right. And I think they're starting to hear that from their customers too. And there's an opportunity for them to sort of rejigger that to say, you know what, people now are sort of more used to it. We definitely have a cook at home culture that's growing, and that's awesome. And trust people a little bit more. If you send them a squash that they're, and they'll be able to figure out how to chop it up, or, give the right instructions, but definitely reducing the packaging is so important. And it's something that we prioritize heavily.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, and to your point, I see everyone making it one of their top priorities, from the brands that you see within the produce department, through the meal kits and, other organizations that, packaging is part of getting food to us all. It's part of the program. So yes, I agree with you. So speaking of the program, tell me a little bit more about the whole story of Hungry Harvest. Behind every good startup is a great story. So
right.
Tell us a little bit more about it. I know that it started at college, and then you guys were, kind of discovered on this show that I think everyone's probably heard about. It's called Shark Tank, you guys. And then to where you're at today.
Great. So you're right. Behind every startup is a great story, and hopefully we're no exception there. Where I think our story can be inspiring to people most is, yes, we've had a huge impact on the food system, but it really came from small steps. So if there's people out there listening right now thinking, what can I do? This seems like such a huge problem. What will it matter? My contribution? It does, and it grows from there. And it's so important to just get started with. Not knowing what you're doing can be one of the greatest assets, because you won't overthink it. You'll just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and eventually, you find yourself in a situation where you've made an impact, or you've connected with people to amplify that impact. So I think that's where our story really begins. Evan Lutz is the founder of Hungry Harvest, and he was a senior at the University of Maryland. When he needed to have a senior project for his entrepreneurship major. And at the time, he was very invested in the food system. He was an intern with the Food Recovery Network, which is a great partner of ours, incredible company to follow. In particular, if there's any young listeners in college, there's likely a Food Recovery Network chapter on your campus, or you can seek one out. So he was working with them, and what they do is really collect the food at the end of the day from the cafeteria that was unprocessed, and you get it donated to hunger relief organizations. So he was working on that and needed a project of his own, was in touch with this farmer who was coming to campus, and got to talking to him. And the farmer said, what would be really helpful to me is if you could find a way to get people to pay for this stuff that I have to leave in the field because it doesn't meet spec. And everyone was like, that sounds crazy. So they started off together with 5 pounds for $5, and he was selling it on campus. And the first week, he had 20 customers. And then the second week, he had like 35. But by the third week, he was having people line up in the hundreds to get this $5, 5-pound bag of produce. All quote, ugly produce, this off-grade stuff. And so he started noticing it's not just students. Now it's students and teachers. Now it's students, teachers, and I don't think these people are from campus. And here in Baltimore...
Yeah, the word really got out. The community.
Word really, really got out, because the University of Maryland College Park, very prestigious school, is in a food desert in Baltimore, where there's very little access to grocery stores or fresh product. So people from the neighborhood were shopping it, people from campus were shopping it, because really it had become an access point for fresh food that did not previously exist. And that's when Evan was like, hey, this is a bigger problem that can solve a bigger problem, and founded Hungry Harvest.
That's amazing.
Yep. So then right from there, we caught the attention of Shark Tank and went through the application process. I had no.
Did they come to you?
I am a little fuzzy on how that exactly worked. I know that the University of Maryland's entrepreneurship program is a place that Shark Tank
That's how. Yep.
looks out for, up and comers. And I believe there was some mutual meeting of how we came to eventually apply for and be accepted to the show.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So Evan went on the show having never really spoken public or really sold the company, and did the valuation, did an awesome job. The episode's available on our website if you ever want to check it out. And really spoke from his heart the truth that he knew, and got a job or got an offer from Robert Hershevek. And from there, the appearance really gave us a national stage to pioneer the ugly fruits and vegetables movement with many other partners who were working in the same space, and really amplified our impact and got the word out that this was a product that was not only cutting into food waste, but also trying to make food more affordable and put more food on the table.
That's amazing. And you certainly are doing that. So let's talk a little bit about your impact thus far. Let's talk about the why this food waste is such it's something we got to tackle. Let's talk a little bit about the data on that. You guys have a lot on your website as to why it's a critical part of the Hungry Harvest mission and, values.
Yeah, it can, Hungry Harvest, it seeks to be a good steward of the land and of the community equally. So we know that every year, 40% of food is going to waste in this country. And of that 40%, 20 billion pounds is produce that's lost before it even leaves the farm. So stuff that farmers have grown, the water has gone into it, the love has gone into it, and they can't harvest it, not because it's rotten, moldy, or bad, but because they can't connect it to a buyer. And so they literally can't afford to pull it off the plant. And that is one of the most heartbreaking things. If you talk to any farmer, their biggest nightmare is knowing that somebody went to bed hungry when there was literally food in their fields that they just couldn't afford to get to them. The inefficiencies of that is the biggest heartbreak of the food industry, as I'm sure you can agree.
I absolutely agree. And that really is where you guys have come up with the concept of rescued produce. Correct?
Right.
That's where Hungry Harvest is the solution through their rescued produce program.
We wanted it to be a win for everyone. So knowing that farmers need customers to purchase that food, right, to get a better return on their total harvest yield, we purchase every single piece of produce that we get. So now we've taken care of the farmer. We've got it at a discount. So we pass that discount on to our customers, making it more affordable for them to purchase it. And then in the process of all of that, we want to make sure that the most hungry people are still taken care of. And so every time you get a Hungry Harvest delivery, we make a donation to another hunger relief partner, someone like a food bank, even small charities who are just doing small pickups to help shut in elderly, or, it really goes from small to large scale when it comes to hunger relief. And so we make donations to ensure that the entire process, people are being fed along the way. And that's one of the reasons that people join Hungry Harvest. They know it's fair for the farmer. It gives them a discount to put more food on their table. And they know that their investment in purchasing this food is also helping a neighbor eat well.
Right. And that's unreal. And you guys, when we think about the grandiose issue that we have in front of us with food waste, 40% of food goes to waste in the United States every year. And 20 billion pounds of that is produce that, to Stacy's point, never even was able to leave the farm because of, specs or off color. So it really is, it warms my heart. And that's one reason I was so excited about having Stacy on today to tell the story. This is a major problem, and Hungry Harvest is absolutely a solution. In a world where we've got so many problems, we need solutions to those problems. And Hungry Harvest is certainly, to your point, Stacy, everyone's winning.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah, and that's our goal. And we also understand that it's going to take more than just us, but we've really perfected a certain type of model that is one solution, which will become a collection of many. And so we're more than happy to we consult with people across the nation who are trying to do similar programs, and just, we're here to collaborate and give you the blueprint and yes, let's all try and get this started, because it's not going to be just one company that's able to do it.
When your mission is rooted in so much passion and purpose and social common good, it's evident that, you guys would be a collaborative, you're working toward a mission that's going to need many hands. You're going to need many people to get behind it. So I love to hear that you're collaborative, but at the same time, not at all surprised. Not at all. So I do want to talk about how Hungry Harvest is unique. I mean, there are this concept of off-spec produce efforts. We're starting to see that more. I'm sure a lot of our listeners can identify with how there are, the ugly produce section within the produce section. And how is Hungry Harvest different? I mean, I know that you just said you're collaborative, so my guess is you certainly respect and admire any effort that's trying to do what you do. But what would you say is your point of differentiation from all those other programs?
So what we're trying to do is fill in the space that could be best described as invisible hunger. Folks who, when you think about the issue of hunger, we tend to think about the most hungry person, right? A person who just has no access to food, no way to get food, for whichever reason it may be. And so where we seek to do is lend a hand to the folks who are doing that work, but to also recognize the people in the in-between who are just trying to make ends meet. And we do it sustainably, and we do it with a really keen eye to making sure everything we do can support itself, so that we can do greater work with the nonprofits, do greater work with the government, with whoever it is that we're working with, and reinvest in making sure there's enough food for all folks. So a couple places that I think we really excel at this is one, in our to your home delivery product that's sort of take care of itself. And then we have two other programs. And I think this is where there's the biggest opportunity for anybody listening to say, okay, what do I know about hunger in my community, and what program could I use to or create to better connect people to food? Because it's really about the connection that's broken. We've got plenty of food, and unfortunately we've got plenty of hungry people. It's how do we get the food to the hungry people that need solved? And that's a place that we focus most of our energy on. So we have another program that's called Produce in a Snap, which sets up community markets and food deserts. Right now across Baltimore, we'll be going out to all of our territories in the next year. And Produce in the Snap sets up a farmer's market style experience that is not a farmer's market. We come in and we bring the crates of food, and we make it very much look like that for the whole shopping experience, and to give people a visual of what foods are available. Because as you know, with Find Your Favorite, it's so important to try so many things until you figure out what is your favorite. Because you may think you don't like Brussels sprouts, but it's because you only ever had them from a can. Did you know they grow on these cool stalks? It's about visualizing the food. So we bring out this food, and we curate a bag for people who we know are maybe just getting used to eating whole food or just getting used to eating fresh. That bag also has 1 leafy green, 4 to 5 types of vegetables, 2 to 3 kinds of fruit. It's subsidized by our Hungry Harvest customer profits. So the profits we make on the box go back into feeding community. And people can purchase that for $7. It's about 10 pounds. And we accept SNAP EBT at these sites. The reason why we're not just accepting SNAP or why we don't require any identification or you don't have to prove to us that you need to shop this market, is because we want to break down the barriers and bring back the dignity to shopping for your own food and bring back the power of choice. So we tend to set these sites up at hospitals, schools. An example that I'll give you that's one of our most successful is at the St. Agnes Hospital in West Baltimore. We started off there because West Baltimore is in great need of food recovery and food justice. So we set up there, and come to find out, we thought, there's going to be about 200 people that are going to come to this market. Well, on our first day, we had 537 people come to the market. And we quickly realized it wasn't just the neighborhood. There was an invisible hunger that existed within the hospital network of hourly workers and folks who, although they had a job and they had food and they had some security, they just didn't have enough to really, truly be flourishing. And so in that way, you can really see, a person who's working, a person who has some food, but just doesn't have enough. And that's the gap that we aim to fill with Produce in a Snap, getting more food on the table for more people.
That's amazing. And you know what I love about what you just said? A term that I have never heard before, but I wrote it down. It warmed my heart so much. You said food justice.
Yes.
I love that. I'm going to adopt that term because it is so true. Food is culture. It's the great connector among us all. And I love the concept of food justice because it is something, everyone deserves that access and that ability to enjoy good food.
Yeah, especially when we live in a country of such abundance.
Right.
And when the people growing the food want you to eat the food, there's goodwill all the way around. It just comes down to meeting people where they're at and trusting people when they tell you that they're hungry or when they tell you that they need more. And there's so much that needs to be done with, bettering our SNAP and welfare system for food security and for food justice, truly.
Yeah. Through the work that we do, I use it, the concept of food justice, my mind and our passion and the work I do immediately connects that with USDA school meals.
Absolutely.
We see
Absolutely.
We're very involved with that component of child nutrition in the United States at the Produce Moms. And that's a great descriptor for that program, food justice. I love that. Now, Stacey, I want to kind of walk people through the journey. First of all, where do you guys deliver? How can our listeners get involved? And then what does that journey look like if someone were to place the order and then they get their Hungry Harvest box? What does that all look like?
Sure. So right now we deliver in any city that I name. Just assume about 100. About an hour, so maybe 90 miles outside of each city. But the best way to find out if we're delivering is to go to our website, hungryharvest.net. There's a zip code checker, and if we are delivering, you're good to go. If we're not delivering, you can sign up for a wait list, and that's how we open new territories. So once the wait list reaches a number that's sustainable, we can open that territory.
Yeah, and got some really, all sorts of great big areas, Maryland, obviously,
Yep.
the home, the grassroots, that's like your flagship, yep. Right?
Baltimore is home for sure. And then we're in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, South Jersey, Wilmington, Delaware, South Florida, Miami, Detroit, Ann Arbor, and the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill.
Okay, yep. And
Research Triangle.
As someone who understands the fresh produce infrastructure, you guys are very, very much... you're very close to those produce terminal hubs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
No, that's fantastic. This is very exciting for everyone. So if you're in those areas, it's pretty easy how you can get involved. You could certainly place an order. If you're not in those areas, you sign up for the wait list, and it's kind of like a crowdsourcing. Once there's enough people on the wait list, I'm sure you guys are responsive, and that's how you identify where Hungry Harvest is going next.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a special for your listeners, if this is okay, we did make a $5 off code for anybody who wants to give it a try. It's just the code is MOMS. And so if you put that in when you're signing up, you'll get $5 off your first harvest.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, we'll be promoting it. Yeah, we'll put it on all of our social channels. And thank you so much. That's wonderful.
Yeah, our pleasure.
No, it's so what else? We're pretty close to our end here.
Sure.
Stacey is, gosh, her passion is burning. I love it. And her purpose is so noble. The purpose of Hungry Harvest. One thing we absolutely try to do with this podcast is identify folks who are doing work that matters, and And this, just like so many of our guests here on the podcast, it really is, you guys, it's just the kind of work that matters the most. They're doing so much good. So many people are benefiting from this organization. And, but like all of our shows, before we close them out, I always give our guests the last word. So Stacey, any closing remarks?
Yeah. I just want to thank you for having me on the podcast. I've been a fan and we followed you for years, and I just appreciate this opportunity so much to be included in your community. And I just want to reiterate to anybody who's listening who thinks this is too big a problem to solve. It is alone, but you're not alone. And you can certainly reach out to us, and we're happy to collaborate with anyone. There are so many spaces in which food is the answer, nutrition is the answer. And if it's, figuring out how to help farmers, how to get more food on the table, we work with the healthcare industry with preventative medicine efforts in which hospitals are actually turning to food now and saying, okay, chronic illness is a problem in this country. What if we sent farm fresh boxes to our patients and really practice what we preach, an apple a day? So there are so many different places in which you can make a difference. And I think as long as we just keep trying to be good stewards of the land, good neighbors, we can make a big difference together.
Couldn't have said it better myself, you guys. Stacy Carroll,
Thanks,
she is the Director of Partnerships at Hungry Harvest. You guys, you can, Stacey, where do they go to find you guys online?
You can go to hungryharvest.net, and you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Hungry Harvest.
Fantastic. Everything will be linked in the show notes too. You guys have a wonderful day. Stacey, keep up the great work. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lori.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.